When I was 8, my mother died. When I was 14, my father opted out of parenthood in great part because of alcoholism. So because of this, at a very young age, I was keenly aware, long before any change management theory came into my world, about the power of the collective to lead transformative change despite all odds. When my mother died, when my father left, my family, my community circled round me. I think of them now as an army of love. My stepmother, she became just sort of my stable, the parental figure. If she was here, she could attest to the fact that she's my #1 cheerleader. My aunt, she would host me every summer for beachcombing and for Marco Polo in the pool, and also to tell me stories of my mother, who I was missing terribly. And then, of course, there was a family friend who would take me for long walks in the woods after my mom's passing. We would collect fiddleheads, and she would write down the stories of my memories of my mother. And there was Tanglewood Camp, which was a place where I was able to sort of step away for the more challenging things that were happening at home and just be a child again. At Girl State, I got this first inkling that I might just be enough. And then the University of Montana was ultimately where I landed and took me under the wing and really helped me further my love of inquiry and learning. And then that, of course, was partnered with her sister, the city of Missoula, who was generous with opportunities. All of these people, all of these organizations had a collective vision that despite this immense pain and this immense loss, that I would not survive, but I would thrive. Today, I work at the University of Montana. I have the pleasure of directing the university's hands-on science museum, Spectrum, as well as a number of its K-12 and community engagement programs. And basically what I get to do is wake up most days and think about how are we going to harness the power of the university to do great things for Montana kids and for Montana communities. It's a good job. I really like it. I also get to teach undergrads about how to create and lead change, and I regularly consult on initiatives that are focused on change, social, behavioral, organizational. But here's the deal. Change is really hard, right? We've all experienced it. It is incredibly hard to create change in your personal life, to create it on a social level. In fact, 70% of transformative change initiatives that happen in an organization are going to fail. 70% of them are just doomed to fail. And then when you start to look at our New Year's resolutions, 8% of our New Year's resolutions will make it past January 8th. Right? You know this. So that means that most of our New Year's resolutions have a shelf life of less than a week, which I'm pretty sure most of the food in all of our refrigerators has a longer shelf life than that. But we also know change is very possible, right? We've experienced it, we've lived it. A number of years ago, I had the pleasure of doing a leadership institute with the Noyce Foundation. And when I was in this institute, I had the opportunity to connect with John Cotter's work. And John Cotter's a leader in the field of transformative change. And here's the deal. He says, despite these terrible odds of creating change, that it's actually possible if we work incredibly strategically. And at the heart of that is the idea that if we come together, a group of passionate people around a noble vision, something worthy of making change, and then we stick with it, that we can make it happen. So for myself, I've become much more interested in creating collective change than thinking about creating organizational change and impact. And that has meant that for Spectrum and for the other initiatives that I work on, that we spend a lot of time partnering with organizations across Montana, coming arm in arm across sector to work around just the simple idea that we want Montana children to thrive. And this has led to lots of exciting partnerships. One of them that I'm particularly excited about and is very near and dear to my heart is our work with the Missoula Food Bank. This partnership brings together Spectrum, it brings together the University of Montana, the food bank, it brings together the public library, as well as scientists, entrepreneurs, all kinds of role models. And it comes together around the idea that we don't need to just simply feed the bodies of our most vulnerable children, but we also need to feed their minds. So we need to nurture their minds. And the partnership started really quite simply. The food bank called us and invited us to bring exhibits and role models, and we've now been doing it for a number of years. And it's joyful. We arrive, the kids have a blast, the scientists have a blast engaging with the children, and I would also say that our educators have an incredible time, but even more so the parents. They're really excited to ask questions, to try out the exhibits. And then it's also matured where we came to realize that it's not enough to just come occasionally. So we now give 400 memberships to children who use the food bank. It's important to note that 1 out of 3 users of the food bank are children under the age of 18. And so they now have the opportunity to come to Spectrum to enjoy exhibits whenever they like. But this partnership, because we're sticking with it, right? You've got to stick with it to make the change. This partnership has come to realize that there's more that we can do. And as we begin to envision our new food bank, we're working to create an interactive learning center at the food bank so that Spectrum's exhibits are there every day, so that our higher education role models are there. The library will do early childhood literacy programs. There'll be free books for children to bring home. And in addition to that, we'll have financial aid counseling for students, and we'll have the access to college-ready programs. And what I love about this project is that just as my family and my community circled around me with that noble vision that I was not going to just survive, but thrive, we get to do this for our children and our families. So I didn't invite or want the pain or the loss I experienced as a child. In fact, I would love to have my mother, who was witty and beautiful and an incredible storyteller. I would love to have her. And I would even take my Peter Pan father, who had tons of unrecognized potential. I would love to have him too. But through this immense loss and through this immense pain, I was able to learn, I think, one of the most critical pieces of making change, which is that passionate people linked arm in arm around an audacious vision can not only imagine a new future, but create it.